What's going on, House Divided viewers? It's your resident Michigan fan, your boy Marcus. As always, we got a game to break down from this past weekend. Got a bye week to ponder some things. Got Wisconsin on the schedule coming up. A lot of things to discuss. We'll go ahead and break it all down. A little bit of housekeeping. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Get this out to every football fan you know. Trying to grow this channel out as much as we can. Make sure you tune in to us live every Saturday here on this channel. We do the big college football show at 11. Myself, Maze, Madman, Maniac, other half of House Divided, Josh, Johnny. It's a great time. So y'all make sure y'all pack in there and see us live on Saturdays. Other than that, man, let's go ahead and get into it. So Michigan had a impressive win, I think, as far as what the question marks of the team were going in against Nebraska. Another top level quarterback early on in the season, or at least perceived to be, going into the game. Team with a lot of offensive skill talent, maybe not necessarily as far along in the trenches as a team like Michigan, but at least, early season game with a rookie quarterback, a freshman quarterback, I should say, presents its own challenges. And I think Michigan met them all pretty damn well. Bryce, I think it was just another week of him maturing and taking a step forward. He had some drops in there from some of his receivers. I think that'll continue to be a talking point for fans and commentators until it's not, right? Until somebody other than Donovan McCulley or Marlon Klein pops and makes a consistent impact. He also has some errant throws himself. He also has some misreads. So again, just the lumps that you're taking with some of the freakish athlete, otherworldly ability. There's also, some of the timetable you got to work with in terms of him reading the field correctly and whatnot. So thought it was a solid performance from him. Good enough to win, and that's gonna work for me 9 times out of 10. So I think the running game continues to be a driving force, like it has always been at Michigan. But I think there was a bit of concern that it was a lot of boom or bust early on in the first couple of weeks, as opposed to consistently leaning on a team. They got all over Nebraska from start to finish in terms of the run game. 280, 85 yards rushing, I believe, in the game. Justice Haynes really making a name for himself here in this first quarter of the season. Has to be in somebody's early Heisman favorites. 3 yards of 75 yards plus at this point. He's as explosive and as productive as any other player offensively in the country right now. So hard to leave him off of any type of projections as far as that's concerned right now. Jordan Marshall had a better game as well. I think that he's starting to come along. Something that I'm noticing on his team, man, is that the competition is driving a lot of performance from older guys, performance from younger guys. The fight to actually be on the field and take these snaps is pushing some really stellar performances on offense and defense. I think one place on offense that you're seeing it is the running back room and also the offensive line. But, to talk about the running backs right now, I think the fact that Jordan Marshall is, for all intents and purposes, our second back right now and could probably start on, let's say, 90% of the league is really pushing Justice Haynes to have this type of season, because he can't have the type of output or the type of impact that he had when he was at Alabama, because then we'd be looking at another lead back. It's that competition that's driving this performance, and I love it. Offensive line, that'd be a good place to pop off onto next. But real quick before we move on offensive line, Bryce in the running game, another element, we keep adding on to that game. We had the the QB draw down there in I don't know if that was a QB draw or if it was him just kind of seeing that the safeties had split and they were in a match defense, they were in man defense, and just kind of took the lane. Either way, becoming a consistent red zone threat with that's what we need. He doesn't have to be the lead guy in the running game. Obviously, we have a stable of backs for that. He doesn't have to be the main factor. He's a balancing factor when teams try to leverage against what we do best, which is running the ball. Offensively, though, I think the offensive line, even through the injuries, man, has gotten better every week that we've seen them this year. I think they've gotten better week over week over week. On the inside, we got, this mad scrum. It will be when El Hadi gets back to the left guard. Who's your starting right? Is Norton healthy enough? Is it Norton? Is it Rhaenyra, who had a really good game? Is it Afobe, who's just kind of been steady the entire way? They've been running a lot of outside zone, a lot of stretch here early on in the year. So I think that has led them to try a lot of guys along the offensive line to see who it necessarily fits, because we're a bigger offensive line group, at least on the interior. So I think that's allowed a guy like Guarnera or Norton to really flourish because of what they're being asked to do. Right, we're moving off of guys. We're trying to pace to the second level. Need to be a little bit more nimble, a little bit more athletic, as opposed to just pounding guys into the ground, which they're still doing, still duoing, still countering power, but a lot of outside zone running when teams are, hammering those A and B gaps early on in the game. So I think that's a storyline to watch right now on the offensive line, is who's going to overtake the right guard once El Hadi comes back. If you're asking me, I'd say either Guarnera or a Afobe, but then you can't count out Norton because he started the season. I think if he's pacing behind because of injury, then one of those two guys is going to step up and end up taking the spot. Wide receivers. So I, for one, think that there is immense talent in this room. I think they have a multitude of options to go to, but they're kind of caught in a crossroads right now of, do we move on to other guys to try, or do we give these guys the time to actually develop in roles that they haven't really asked to be in before? Channing Goodwin is getting open. Channing Goodwin is winning one-on-ones. Channing Goodwin is not consistently finishing these one-on-ones. And so where I can probably even see in the game how he's getting these opportunities, because he is able to get open. It is just, there will be a point in the season where we can no longer wait to get to that point, right? You got to start doing what it needs to be done, or the next man up. Because here's the thing: you got Kendrick Bell, who was injured in the spring, but is a guy who has shown flashes here, right? Like he deserves an opportunity to see if he can make those plays. Same thing with a guy like Frederick Moore, right? He had some of the dropsies, last year and in the beginning of this season, probably attributed to some of his lack of playing time. But there are guys, Andrew March. There are guys on this in this room that are going to be vying for time. So it's kind of a put up or shut up moment for the wide receivers. I'm not wringing my hands about it too much, because I think as much as you can blame wide receivers for drop passes and the such, you could probably look at Bryce every now and again, and he's not getting to the open guy. He's not the most accurate all the time. We don't have to paint him like he's Superman. He's fallible as well. So there's room to improve across the board. And I think when we're dealing with a lot of young offensive skill, you kind of have to take the bumps and bruises. Like, you have to work through this stuff. The great part about it is that they're winning, right? And so it's always easier to take a growing process or a growing pain when you're still winning games. So getting on to the defense, absolutely dominant day. Absolutely dominant day. Shout out to the entire edge crew: Derek Moore, TJ Guy, Jay Sean Barham, Cameron Brandt, just guys after guy after guy flashing on the interior offensive line. Trey Pierce really starting to make himself be felt in these games, man. He's really establishing himself. You already knew you had guys like Rayshawn Benny and and Trey Williams and Damon Payne and stuff like that on the inside. And those guys have played well this year as well. Trey Pierce is consistently starting to make himself be a playmaking factor there from the interior. So I know that's one thing that everybody automatically expected us not to have. I think for the most part, we've replaced it in terms of playmaking on the inside. I think we've replaced it with depth. But even within that, you still have playmakers there. You still have a Rashawn Benny. You still have a Trey Pierce who's going to be a standout from that position. So very, very strong front seven. Still sticking with my preseason observation that this is probably the strongest front in the league. And I think at a certain point that it'll be an opportunity to prove that later in the season. So linebackers, same, a lot of guys played. That competition driving performance thing applies in this room for sure. Where even where guys are not necessarily standing out, you can tell that they're feeling the pressure of not making plays. If you're like a Rolder or a Hausman, because Sullivan is making plays, man. He seems to always be in the right place at the right time. And again, he's making a difference. He's just not, contributing to the team's success, which he is. But that's not all he's doing. He's making a difference himself, and so that's always something that's going to pop. So it's something that's going to be paid attention to. So I think Roder had a better game this week than he did against Central Michigan. I think Ernest Hausman has been steady. Again, he just hasn't been a playmaker earlier on the season. He's had opportunities for sacks that have been missed. He's had, tackle for loss opportunities, missed tackles and things like that. And that doesn't tell the entire story of how he's played this season. However, when you got a freshman like Cole Sullivan, when you've got Jimmy Rolder, when you've got even down the depth chart, when you talk about a Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng or Jaden Hood when he gets back healthy, like a Troy Bowles who seems to make plays, even if it's in the later half, when things are pretty much decided. Troy Bowles is a guy who pops on screen too. So I think they're good for a number of years in that room. Right now, there's just a log jam for minutes. And again, competition has to drive performance. These guys are going to have to compete to get it on the field. Let's talk about a little bit what we need in the bye week maintenance wise. Obviously, getting healthy is going to be tantamount. Really want to work out the kinks, try to get some guys back. Take a look at Zeke Berry, take a look at Gio. I think the fact that Rob Moore got his first playing time in this game and then goes into a bye week is perfect. It's perfect, man, because our next game we have against Wisconsin, we don't want to look past them and look on to Wisconsin to USC too early, but I just don't anticipate it being a game where Michigan's going to struggle that much. So, that being said, getting healthy for the back half of the season should be the priority here over the next 2 weeks, not even just through the bye. I think, we want to be going into the stretch run of the season at full strength. And so when you have opportunities to get your depth pieces time, when you have an opportunity to get up early in games and set your starters, that's a win, man. That's a win within a win, because you have a longer road in college football now, with postseason play, conference titles, playoffs, and things of that nature. So got a long way to go. Health is at the top of the list. I would think that first of all, we work in jugs like a mug. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who catches passes on this team is hitting the jugs for sure. Every single one. I think defensively they'll be working more gap scheme run fits. That continues to be a bugaboo for us a little bit. Nobody's really gashed us like Oklahoma did with John Mateer, but it's still something that you can see on tape, and you see other teams now are trying to use it and get to it. So it would be something, if that's one of your only weaknesses, go ahead and plug that hole now and make people figure out something else late in the season. That's how you do that. continue to look for playmakers, man, on both sides of the ball. Continue to look for playmakers. Jaden Sanders is kind of silently stealing Shamari Earl's freshman year. Shamari Earl's over there rocking the deuce, but he's doing it most of the time on the sidelines, while Jaden Sanders is spelling Zeke Berry. So I think just kind of like the linebacker room it's the future is very bright. They have a lot of good young guys. Same time, right now as it is, where the pecking order is with Shamari Earls being hurt early in the season, Elijah Dotson and Jaden Sanders are getting a lot more run. They're getting a lot more look. That's playing experience. That time counts, right? They're building up player currency. Whereas Shamari Earls now is what I don't want to see him do is when he gets an opportunity, he presses to try to catch up, right? Those guys are already ahead of you right now. Work your process, take your path, and let your talent be shown when it's time. Don't press. Don't press to try to catch up, because I can see that guy gets hurt early. He's anticipated to make an early contribution. He's the highest rated DB out of the entire class. So certainly you're looking at him before Sanders or Elijah Dotson. And yet, both of those guys are out on the field making plays while Shamari is watching. So I hope that when, and the opportunity will come, it's a long season, when he gets that, it is, all right, cool. Let me just do my job. Let me do my job. Let me not be wrong and not forcing the game, Honestly, I don't have too much to say about Wisconsin, but I guess we'll get a preview next week on them. Other than that, man, I think that's the gist. Sherrone Moore will be back this week or next week. Heading into the Badgers there. It'll be good to have him back under the helm for some of those clock situations, some of those time management situations and whatnot. It's crazy when a replacement coach makes you long for Coach Moore's time management. Anyways, I think we're in for a good little stretch here, guys. I think this team is going to exceed some expectations. They're going to break some hearts, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Keep building on your depth at all positions. Keep getting healthy. Keep inching Bryce forward an inch every single game. Continue to feed Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes. And keep dominating opposing offensive lines. That's it, baby. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought about everything going into the bye week here coming up for Michigan. Again, like, share, and subscribe. We'll hit you back with another one next week. Enjoy football, folks.